Hello, and welcome to Something's Brewing at the Chamber. My name is Jessica Linder Gallo, and I'm the president and CEO of the Aurora Regional Chamber of Commerce, and I'm your host for today's episode of Something's Brewing at the Chamber. Something's Brewing is a program to keep you up to date on all the events, offerings, and news happening all around you in the Aurora region. This is the show where we keep you up to date on what's brewing at the Chamber and in the community all throughout the year. Grab a cup of whatever's brewing near you, and let's get started. Just love that music playing at the beginning. I hope you grabbed a cup of something brewing, and let's get going. On today's episode, we'll be talking about the Economic Pulse event that's coming up on March 3rd here in Aurora. We'll hear snippets from some of the event speakers, and later in the broadcast, we'll sit down with one of our event sponsors and panelists from Invest Aurora. Joining me for today's episode is the Chamber's very own workforce development specialist, Eric Carlson. Eric, welcome to Something's Brewing.
Hi, Jessica. How are you?
Great. I'm glad you could join us for today's episode. Would you kick us off by telling everyone who's watching a little bit about yourself and tell our viewers about your role at the Chamber?
Yeah, my name's Eric, and I'm the workforce development specialist at the Chamber, really working with our members and businesses in the Aurora region to workforce, find workers, do workforce events or workforce training, and really thinking of really great initiatives and things that we can do to help build the workforce in Aurora and in our region. Okay?
Absolutely. There's been some really cool projects going on, and we love getting to have you at the Chamber with us. And workforce is going to be something that actually we talk about a little bit more with the Economic Pulse this year. I think we were all hoping to be done talking about it, but such is life.
Yeah. Welcome.
Absolutely. So let's start to talk a little bit about Economic Pulse. You are been a huge part of planning this the last couple of years, and last year's event was absolutely fantastic. I know people are expecting nothing less, but let's talk a little bit about it. This is a flagship event for the Chamber.
Yeah, so we like this event a lot. So it's a really good way for our Chamber members and people or businesses in our community kind of have like a review or some sort of thought about what's going to happen, right, in the year 2022. So it's really kind of looking at that crystal ball and figuring out, oh, these are maybe some trends that economists are seeing. And we always have an economist in this event. So that's important to kind of think about. So people who are really seeing a lot of data and have interesting data sets that maybe we don't have access to or businesses don't have access to. So really thinking about that data-driven content.
Totally. It's very well titled. It is really a pulse on the economy every year. And I know it's taken, for those who've been attending this event over the years, it's a little different every time. So if anybody attended last year, no need to think, oh, I've been there, done that, because the economy constantly changes. So we kind of take the theme a little bit different direction depending on what's going on in the world around us every year. So it's going to be fresh and new, just like it was all of the previous ones.
Always new. So
that's right.
Yes.
I also really want to highlight something that you said there. You mentioned data, and that's such a key part of this event too. So, right, for business owners and for business managers, data is absolutely pivotal in running an event, and it's sometimes hard to get a hold of. I don't think any of us are sitting around just like have time, unless that's your job. But if you're running a business, you're doing 20 things, right? So finding that data is really hard. So this can be a really great chance, this event, to get that data kind of spoon-fed to you and like, here's what's important, here's what you need to know, and take that back to make your own decisions for the year ahead.
Definitely like thinking high level about your business and maybe some things that you don't see every single day, but you can keep in mind as you go forward this year.
Yeah, it's that clarity break. Well, awesome. Like you said there, we always bring in an economist for this, and there are economists all over the world. They each have totally different opinion based on the data they're using and their specialties. But in the last month, we've continued to see words like workforce shortages and supply chain disruption, which are two words that I never thought would be quite as common in our everyday vocabulary as they are. But it can be overwhelming, right? These are really large scale concepts that are directly impacting our businesses and our day-to-day. which is why I'm so excited about this year's speaker. Should we do a little introduction?
Yes, I think it's time for a drum roll.
All right.
Great. So, I'm sorry, but our keynote, so excited.
We're both so excited.
But our keynote is going to be Dave Gilbertson. He's the vice president of UKG, which is a human resource company and does payroll processing, basically. But they have a huge data set, and he's actually helped lead sort of that data collection process. So they're really looking at hourly workers and kind of can have that day to day, how many people are clocking in and clocking out and what they're doing and how long and things. So really interesting data that he's bringing to the table, and he's going to share some of that with us and our members. So we're really excited about what he has to bring to Economic Pulse this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think it's the origin story of how we find these speakers is so fun, and we don't often pull the curtain and share this. But Eric and I are both really big podcasters, so this is the second year in a row we've found our keynote speaker on a podcast, and Eric is very good at the cold call reach out. So we're really excited that Dave responded and was willing to join us. One of the things that was cool that I know I've heard him mention on some of the podcasts we've listened to him on is just that interconnectedness between the labor market and the supply chain shortages. So we're not just talking about labor market again. It's really coming up because it's a huge driver in really the supply chain and the cost increases that we're seeing around us.
Correct. And thinking about how that is improving the economy. So really interesting how everything is connected.
Always. Big web of dots. Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, he has some really big data to help us navigate this. So definitely not a small data set that they're using. I think there's going to be some really awesome insights for all of us and kind of how we can be thinking about our own workforce and trying to control what we can control, right? There's so much we can't, but I think there's some really good nuggets in the data that he has and the information he's going to share that will help us kind of do what we can in our own worlds.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, would you like to go ahead and share a little clip?
Sure. Just to key up this. So this is Dave talking with it's a economist or a consultant. And they're talking about kind of how it's really important to have like the correct data before we make really big decisions, particularly about how we're going to incentivize workers. Right. So some areas, maybe it's paying, you think that, oh, we're gonna have to raise really wages. And maybe that's not the best case. And thinking kind of about having that data and figuring out what is the best for your specific business and industry.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's kick it over to them then.
Great.
Awesome. Yeah, it's super interesting to hear them talk about that. And there's so much work actually that you're doing, that we're doing at the chamber, that really aligns with what they're saying. So I'll save too many of the shameless plugs for later, but certainly something that I think folks will be hearing more about us from in the year ahead as we really try and help people get those credentials and get trained and prepared to move forward in their lives and help the economy move.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to hear about different industries and figure out what is best for like the space that your company occupies. So
yeah, very much so.
Really great.
All right. So if you are listening to this right now and you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is super interesting, I do want this data, I'm really intrigued to hear this speaker, which I hope is all of the things you're thinking at the moment, we want to tell you how to register. So if you go to aurorachamber.com/events, you'll be able to find our events calendar and click on Economic Pulse. You can also click on, there's a big banner on our homepage. So pretty easy to find. But for all of you who are listening today on Something's Brewing, we have a special little treat for you. So if you use the code Something's Brewing, you're actually going to get $5 off your registration. So there it is for you. Something's Brewing, all caps, one word, for $5 off that registration as a thank you for watching and for joining us right here on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're watching right now. So definitely join us and head over to get registered today. So as we kind of continue our conversation here, Eric, there is this awesome keynote that we're really excited about, but there is also going to be a panel that follows it, a local panel. So let's talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so for all of our education, kind of big education events, we like having that sort of national level keynote and then bringing it down to state and local leaders that are really leading economic growth or wars or whatever they're doing in that bigger regional and statewide efforts. So we're really excited about this year's panel as well. So we're going to keep it up.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, and they bring just such a local perspective, to your point. So after we hear from Dave, who's going to have that big kind of national perspective, that large data set, we're going to hear from some experts here in Illinois and here in Aurora who have a much more localized data perspective and a local kind of flavor. They know the players, they know what's going on here. So they'll be able to take that information and just bring it right down to the ground for you, which I think brings a whole nother level of value. So let's go ahead and hear, I'd love to have you introduce who the panelists are this year. And this is a first. If you're watching right now, you're hearing it here first.
Nobody knows this stuff now. But we're always excited to have our local panelists. So I think we're going to show who the panelists are in a second. But Brian Gay from Investor, who we're going to actually be hearing from in a few minutes, he's going to be on our panel. He's president and CEO of Aurora, which is our local economic development agency here in the city of Aurora. And then we're going to have Jonathan McGee, the director of the Bureau of Regional Economic Development with the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity statewide. So that's a statewide perspective that we're going to really have some interesting things to hear from, especially with economic development throughout Illinois. So we're excited to have DC be part of our panel this year. And our last one is John Bradrich, and he's the affiliate relations manager with IMEC, which is the Illinois Manufacturing Excellence Center. We have a ton of manufacturing here in the Aurora region. So we're really excited to hear kind of what we see in that industry and have some interesting perspectives, again, kind of state and regionally.
Absolutely. Some really great panelists. So we're really excited to have them join. But I think with that, let's go ahead and bring our next guest on for the show today. So like Eric said, our next guest is president and CEO of Aurora, Brian Gay. Brian, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jessica. Hey, Eric. Good to be here.
So excited to have you with us. We're really glad you were able to join us.
Yeah, thanks. The pleasure's all mine.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your job. If you would introduce yourself to our viewers and just share a little bit about what you guys do at Aurora.
Yeah, so Invest Aurora, we're the city's public-private economic development agency. We're a lean, mean fighting machine in terms of economic development. So we do a little bit of it all. We are on, we do retail attraction, retention, as well as expansion, and then and I said retail, but we really touch all industries. So whether that's retail, whether that's commercial office space or industrial, we do work on it all. We touch a little bit of everything in terms of just we come to the table with either incentives out of our own office as well as connecting into state and federal programs as well. So we're a one-stop shop. We work very closely with the city of Aurora and the mayor's office of economic development, and no day is it's kind of quite the same, and it's always fun.
Yeah, and Eric, you actually work with Invest as well. So for those who don't know, Brian is also one of our office mates. So we share an office with Invest Aurora along with a few other development organizations here in Aurora. So Eric kind of does double duty working on both sides of the equation. So I saw him nodding there. I know he's familiar with a lot of what you're saying.
Always something interesting at Invest. So.
Yes.
Something's always brewing, if you will. Yeah.
Yes. Well, kind of right along with that, Brian, if you would tell us, economic development is the world that you live and breathe, and with that comes a lot of workforce, a lot of the things we're talking about. Are there any initiatives that you guys are working on right now that you want to share that kind of relate to this topic for the economic pulse?
Yeah, I mean, what is interesting is that even before the pandemic, and like you had mentioned, workforce and the availability of workforce, and then even supply chain, like these were all words that we had heard before, and before anything really kind of started coming down, the first, second, third question was the availability of workforce, and is it trained and available? And so today, those issues, those questions have just been exacerbated, and that finding that quality workforce is still a major issue, if not if it wasn't there before. So we work very closely with our workforce development partners, John Bradderich, who's going to be on the panel as well. We work very closely with his team at IMEC. And so, we do a lot of the connectivity between private, working with the chamber, working with private businesses, as well as kind of connecting into some of those resources throughout the community. I also volunteer my time to a number of the different workforce boards. King County I sit on, and as well as a group that helps helps individuals with disabilities connect into the workforce as well. They're called Parents Alliance. So we have a lot of just kind of that connectivity between the marketplace, but some of the things that we, that Invest Aurora that we're currently working on. So last year we met with close to 300 businesses in the city, and just kind of asking questions, finding out what their needs are, and being able to connect into. So whether that's a local workforce grant, whether that's working with John and his team at IMEC, we do a little bit of that. And then this year, we're going to be doing even more of that. So last year we met with 300. This year, we're probably going to be, it's close to 400 or 500. We were part of the Greater Aurora Area Community Navigator Program last year, working with the state of Illinois and the Back to Business program. So we helped bring about $2.5 million funding to our local businesses here that help keep businesses open, help them, hire and continue to grow. And we'll be doing another round here later on this, this spring, sometime March, April. We'll have that again. We're working with IMEC right now and connecting in with grants for different marketing and event planning programs. So we'll actually be reaching out to the community here over the next few weeks, connecting it with those grants. And then there's just a number of other things that, as the year continues to progress, I'm sure we'll be jumping on and talking about as well in terms of workforce development.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much good stuff that you just said in that. There's like 5 different things I want to pull out, but I'll pause there for a moment. I don't know, Eric, if you want to respond to anything.
Yeah, just really exciting things coming down the pipeline here at Invest
Yeah,
Chamber.
sure.
Yeah.
And, one of the interesting things, Brian, is that, you were saying how many businesses you guys have met with in the last year and continue to do so. And so between the partnerships and being on the ground with businesses, and our organizations together have done some surveying of businesses. There's a lot of local data that you have at your fingertips as well that you guys are able to lean on. So not to ask you to get out your crystal ball, because no one likes to do that. And I always get in trouble for asking economists to do that. I'm not going to do it. But I'm kind of going to ask that. So give us a little preview of what's the insight, or what are you looking at in 2022? You don't have to give us too much. We're going to get a lot from you during the Economic Pulse, but give us a little taste.
So, one of the ways that we are increasing just the amount of data that we have in-house is working with the city of Aurora through their business registration program. So this program kicked off at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. It's beginning to continue to ramp up. So we're going to be making a major push on that here in 22. What happened to 21? Not sure. 2022, it's still hard to say. So we're going to be ramping up on that and gathering even more data, making sure, again, those lines of communication are open and kind of that connectivity there. So making sure that, but I think the biggest thing is that as, we continue to work through this, businesses are still expanding. Businesses are still, we had a record year again in terms of the number of projects and investments in the city of Aurora last year. And that just not, that's not just at the municipal level. That is across all industries, whether it's industrial, it's retail, it's whatever. We're seeing that. So again, we're going to continue to see that and just connecting into the resources that are available. So many things, so many dollars are available now that just weren't there 2 years ago. So just making sure, again, that we communicate that to the group, working through the data points that we have and making sure that, the needs are aligned correctly with, what's available out there in terms of resources.
Yeah, for sure. So Brian, you guys are also a sponsor for Economic Pulse, which we're so excited to have you as one. Thank you for sponsoring. Tell us, for everybody watching who's debating, should I go? Should I make time for this? We're all busy. What drew you guys to Economic Pulse to make Invest Aurora want to sponsor and be involved in this?
From your standpoint, I think I said it's one of the kind of premier events on the chamber's calendar throughout the year. And close, this would be my fourth time participating in the event, and third as a speaker. So really just excited about that. And I think just the quality of the speakers, the conversations that happen is second to none in the Aurora market here. So from that standpoint, it's one of those things that it wasn't a question of should we do it. It's how could we not do it, right?
Love that. Love that. And you're becoming a staple of this event. So
happy to do it.
A pattern going there. Awesome. Yeah. Well, Brian, for anybody who's looking to get connected with Invest Aurora, how can they find you? How can they connect with you guys?
Yeah, so they can find us on pretty much every social media, but our website, www.investaurora.org, is kind of that one-stop shop for all things economic development in the city of Aurora. There, Eric does a fantastic job with site selection services and providing a database of available properties. We also have information on all of our different financing programs, whether that's the Finish Line Grant, John C. Dunham Revolving Loan Program, or our brand new EDA revolving loan program here at Invest Aurora. We have it all information there, applications, guidelines. You can find it all there at investaurora.org.
Awesome. Brian, thank you so much for being on with us today. We really appreciate having you as a guest, and we can't wait to see you speak on March 3rd.
Yeah, can't wait for it. Thanks so much.
Have a good one, Brian.
Yeah.
All right. So you heard it here, folks. This is going to be a great event. 2022 Economic Pulse, March 3rd. At 10 a.m.
Yes.
$20 for members, $35 if you're not currently a member. And for all of you watching, that code on the bottom of the screen, you get $5 off. So make sure you take advantage of that. Eric, anything we're missing as we wrap up here? Tell us, what are you most excited for Economic Pulse this year?
Yeah, I'm excited to hear from our keynote. As always, very interesting stuff. And he's a really good speaker. He's done a TED Talk too. So if you really want to get a little preview, it's going to be something different than his TED Talk was on, of course. But we're really excited to see some of that data, to hear really what people are seeing in kind of a wider context, and really just bringing it home to Aurora. So yeah.
Absolutely. Love a good TED Talk. Well, Eric, thank you so much for joining me today as well. It's been great having you on. As always, for everyone watching, our team is really energized to be working for you. There is a lot going on and a lot brewing in the greater Aurora region and at the Chamber. I'm going to need more coffee to keep up with all of it. So grab your cup. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, let's keep it brewing.